Hi there, this is Dr. Robert Cywes back again as the Carb Addiction Doc with another podcast. And again, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this one, but it is important. Have you ever wondered why Eskimos exist? I know it's a funny story, but so often in the ketogenic movement, as I've participated in the last 20 years, we refer to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. The Eskimos, the Bushmen in South Africa where I come from, the Aborigines, the Maoris, the Mongolians, the hunter-gatherer societies as what they eat. We've looked at their diet and we use their diets, particularly the Eskimos, because they kind of live on the ice. They don't have a lot of access to plants and that type of thing. Most of their food comes from animals. And we've used the diet of the Eskimos and the health of the Eskimos to help us to justify the ketogenic kind of mostly carnivorous diet. And it's absolutely true. I'm sitting here with my computer because I've got a couple of slides I want to kind of share with you. The typical Eskimo diet of those people that live on the ice, that live off the land, their typical diet is primarily ketogenic. It's high in fat and protein and consists of very little, no or very little carbohydrates. There's a variety of fish, seal, reindeer, polar bears, walruses, whales, grouse, anything that lives in that environment, they eat. And they eat the whole animal. They use the whole animal. They eat the organs, they eat the flesh, they eat the muscles, they eat the fat. And then from time to time, seasonally, they may get some berries just in the late fall to fatten up a little bit. That's what hunter-gatherer societies do. That takes us back 6,000 to 10,000 years. Most food is served frozen, boiled, raw, dried, occasionally heated up by fire, plain, with only a handful of added ingredients. In other words, they'll just eat a piece of meat. They won't have portions on their plate. And there are no obligations as to when to eat. Eskimos basically eat when they're hungry. And because they're in ketosis, it's usually once or twice a day. And we've used the Eskimo experience in terms of their diet to justify the ketogenic diet. However, one of the key things about first world people, if you look at them, they're pretty darn backwards. They're pretty darn archaic. Ultimately, hunter-gatherer societies is what we've evolved from. And I'm not being nasty to them. I'm not being discriminatory. The rest of humanity evolved away from a hunter-gatherer society. We became farmers, we grew crops, and then we developed the industrial and now the technological revolution. So we've moved forward tremendously. And yet these first world people have stayed put. Well, you know what's incredible? Even though they're archaic, even though they're very backwards in terms of their development, the reason they've stayed put for the last 10,000 years is because they're damn successful. They're super successful. If they weren't, they would have found another way to go, or they would have become extinct. They would have become us. We evolved to the point we are because we sucked at being hunter-gatherers. They stayed the way they were, not because they're terrible or backwards, but because they're damn successful. And sure, eating and drinking a ketogenic diet over and over and over and over again, we've proven, doesn't cause disease. You don't see cancer in those folks. You don't see the diseases that we see that we do to ourselves. The metabolic diseases, the smoking, the drinking, the carbohydrate diseases, the obesity, the diabetes. Doesn't exist in those populations when they live off the land. Yes, they die from trauma. They die because of diseases, infectious diseases, and maybe diseases that occur in the environment or trauma in the environment. It's a harsh lifestyle. But they don't die of self-induced illnesses, which are the commonest cause of death from us. They don't turn blue and die of heroin addiction. They don't get diabetes or obesity. But it's not just about their diet, and this is the key thing. When we examine Eskimos, we focused so heavily on their diet. But let's look at what really makes Eskimos successful. What really makes Eskimos successful is how their clan works. And how their clan works starts at birth. There's a beautiful, beautiful book. I'm going to put my glasses on here so that I can see properly. There's a beautiful book by a woman by the name of Jean Briggs. It was written in 1979, and it's about living with the Eskimos and about looking at how the clan evolves and how they raise their children. And the book's title is Never in Anger. And I would strongly suggest that you go and look up Jean Briggs' book, because Eskimos as parents is critically important to why they've been successful despite the pressures of the modern era. Before the Eskimo, Inuit is the correct word, before Inuit children are taught how to hunt or work, before they're taught how to be productive, they are taught how to behave with others, how to develop relationships, how to have empathy, how to interact. Traditional Inuit parenting is incredibly nurturing and tender and loving. If you took all the parenting styles around the world and ranked them by their gentleness, the Inuit approach would likely rank near the top. The way children respond to difficult circumstances appear to be something they learn from their parents. And what kind of children does that tender society produce? The kind, it seems, who can live harmoniously in one of the world's harshest, most stressful climates, often with threadbare resources, where survival hinges on making the most efficient use of their natural world, of making decisions that are not clouded or interrupted with emotions such as fear and anger and frustration and depression and anxiety. They don't have those because they're not raised to have them. They're raised in a solutionistic environment. There's a polar bear. How do I get away from it? Not, oh my God, there's a polar bear! I'm dead. You know what? We spent the whole winter tying the knots on a net. We fished for it for the first time. The net tore. We have to take that net back and fix it. Oh, this net is broken. Guess what you're not doing? You're not fixing the problem. The Eskimos have raised their kids, and successful hunter-gatherer societies raise their kids not to deal with their emotions, but to see things that might trigger emotions and focus on the issue and the solution, rather than having that solution disrupted by the emotion. And that is something I've tried to practice. That's something I've tried to practice. I used to get really angry at myself. I come from an authoritarian background about the imperfection of missing a turn when I'm late for a meeting. But if I get all angry and, oh, you idiot, how stupid can you be? Guess what I'm doing? I'm missing the next two or three turns that could take me to the same place. Instead, if I step back and I say, okay, I missed this turn, where's the next one? And I take the next one and I get there, I may be a few seconds late. Not having emotions, but seeing them in the distance, seeing the triggers in the distance, allows you to say, okay, what is going to make me feel like that? How do I solve this? And if you solve it, you don't need the emotion. The correct emotions, the appropriate emotions, are love and kindness and gratitude and gentleness. Why? Because that causes or results in human bonding. And when you're bonded with a human, when you're willing to sacrifice yourself for somebody else, for the clan, when that love and that bond is so strong, when it's not about a person, it's about people, it's about the clan, you survive in the harshest environment. So even though Inuits live in the harshest and harshest of climates, as a group, they still manage to be at peace with themselves and with others. You just don't hear about the great Eskimo wars of the 1800s. Why? Because they never happened. They didn't go to war with anybody. They solved problems. And maybe that's because that Inuit environment, as well as dealing with the climate, is also the kind of society that teaches kindness and gratitude, humility and thankfulness above all else. Perhaps our modern society can learn from those old prehistoric societies that still exist because they are more successful than we will ever be. Be kind, be gentle, be humble, be grateful. and you will bond with human beings. An empathetic human connection is one of the primary core effective healthy emotion management strategies. If you've got somebody you can talk to about your stuff in a non-judgmental, non-critical way, you can solve problems. If you're angry at everybody around you or afraid of everybody around you, like I was raised to be, or feel inferior to everybody around you, you don't have human connection that can help you to survive. Human connection becomes a source of stress rather than a source of emotional buoyancy. And people, it's all about where you get your emotional buoyancy from. Not from a Coke, not from a tub of ice cream, not from a plate of pizza. Emotional buoyancy comes from human connection. Healthy, empathetic, non-judgmental, non-critical human connection. In the next chapter, we're going to do a little role playing, and I'm going to show you how human connection works. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please click the subscribe button and become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if that message resonated with you and made you think, and you made a decision to do more to help yourself, but you need help, please come and see us. Set up a consultation. We can do it in person in my offices in Palm Beach Gardens at 561-627-4107, or in Jacksonville, Florida at 904-410-3934. I also do some long-distance consults telephonically or on Zoom. Set that up as well by calling 561-627-4107. We help people to manage their diabetes better and also to get started in obesity management. Or if you've had bariatric or obesity surgery and are struggling, give us a shout. We can help to get you back on track.